Hello and welcome everyone. Today, we're diving into the fascinating and enigmatic story of Barry Minkow, whose extraordinary journey seems straight out of a complex and thrilling financial thriller. From young entrepreneurial prodigy to criminal to pastor, Minkow proved to be a complex figure, constantly in search of redemption, but relentlessly caught up in his own deceptions. If you're captivated by life stories full of twists and ambiguities, you've come to the right place. Stay with us for an intriguing exploration of the life of this man, whose singular destiny will certainly not leave you indifferent. And if you enjoy content like this, don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, and turn on all notifications so you don't miss our upcoming video. Born on March 22, 1966, in Inglewood, California, Barry Minkow grew up in a stimulating environment of undeniable diversity and complexity. The first traces of his entrepreneurial adventure can be traced back to the age of 9. When his mother landed him a job as a telemarketer in the carpet cleaning company where she worked. This early experience of the working world shaped her outlook and whetted her appetite for business. Barry's adolescence is just as dynamic. At the age of 16, while still a sophomore at Cleveland High School, the ambitious young man founded ZZZZ Best in the family garage. With 3 employees and 4 telephones, the company was born in a modest space full of potential. In those days, without a driver's license, Barry had to rely on his friends to transport him to his various carpet cleaning jobs, a dependence that in no way hinders his enthusiasm and determination. However, the early days of ZZZZ Best were not a smooth ride. Minkow struggled to cover the basic expenses of his business. In addition, he had to overcome the legal constraints associated with his young age. At the time, California law prevented minors from signing binding contracts, including checks. This led 2 banks to close ZZZZ Best's business account. Minkow was also beset by customer complaints and demands for payment from suppliers. At times, he even found it difficult to pay his employees. Against this difficult backdrop, and suffering from a lack of capital, the young entrepreneur resorted to various dubious methods to finance his business. He committed check fraud, stole and sold his grandmother's jewelry, staged burglaries at his offices and carried out fraudulent credit card transactions. Following this initial turbulence, Minkow decided to diversify ZZZZ Best by entering the disaster restoration business. With the help of claims adjuster Tom Paget, Minkow creates false documents indicating that ZZZZ Best is working on various projects for Paget's company. They also set up a fictitious company, Interstate Appraisal Services, to confirm this information to Minkow's banks. Based on this false information, the banks grant loans to Minkow, enabling ZZZZ Best to expand into Southern California. Since then, the company has enjoyed an impressive upward trajectory. With his characteristic spirit and daring, Minkow steered ZZZZ Best towards a crucial step: going public. This bold maneuver proved a resounding success, making the company a publicly recognized enterprise. As a result, the value of ZZZZ Best soared, and with it Minkow's personal fortune. The company, which began life in a garage, is now valued in the millions of dollars, making the young entrepreneur a multi-millionaire on paper. On the surface, everything seems to indicate that Minkow has not only overcome the challenges of his tumultuous beginnings, but is well on the way to becoming an icon of American entrepreneurial success. But make no mistake, beneath this enticing facade of prosperity, the reality is quite different. Although the company's image is one of success, it is in fact deeply rooted in fraud and deceit. Fictitious contracts, invented jobs and misrepresentations of the company's activities have all contributed to artificially inflating ZZZZ Best's value. These illusions, risky as they are designed to solidify the image of a vibrant, thriving company, while deftly concealing the true, precarious nature of its operation. However, the illusion is not confined to the financial and operational spheres of the company. Minkow also deploys a seductive but deceptive facade in the public sphere. A massive television advertising campaign presents the company as reliable and trustworthy. At the same time, Minkow, playing the role of the prosperous tycoon, publicly flaunts his luxury possessions, top-of-the-range cars and a sumptuous mansion, reinforcing his image of flamboyant success. Nevertheless, the fragile structure built by Minkow soon showed signs of instability. Outside observers, including the Feshbach brothers, famous for their investment strategies, began to question the soundness of ZZZZ Best, identifying various inconsistencies and irregularities in the company's operations. In addition, the dubious behavior of internal players, such as Charles Arrington, ZZZZ Best CFO, also attracted attention and raised questions about the company's integrity. In this climate of suspicion, Minkow's shadowy schemes gradually came to light. ZZZZ Best's edifice, once perceived as unshakable, begins to falter. Cracks, previously imperceptible, appear in the foundations, raising fears of an imminent collapse of the company. In a last-ditch attempt to save the company, Minkow decided to merge with Kaiser V. This would have given ZZZZ Best a vital financial boost. However, the press, highlighting the company's fraudulent dealings and dubious methods, eroded the confidence of investors and the general public alike. Mistrust set in, the share price plummeted, and the long-awaited merger with Kaiser V evaporated in the tense air of the trading floor. The final blow came when a cornered Minkow chose to resign, abandoning the ship he had built himself but which, alas, was destined to sink. This led to a spectacular fall in ZZZZ Best. At the same time, investors suffered colossal losses and employees found themselves out of work overnight, the collateral victims of a meticulously orchestrated swindle. Following this financial and professional wreck, the curtain rises on another dark act in the Barry Minkow saga. In January 1988, he and 10 other ZZZZ Best accomplices were indicted by a federal grand jury. They faced 54 counts including racketeering, securities fraud, money laundering, embezzlement, mail fraud, tax fraud and bank fraud. In addition, the indictment charged Minkow with extorting millions of dollars from banks and investors, while systematically stripping his company of its assets. He was also accused of setting up fictitious companies, writing false invoices and arranging visits to non-existent catering sites. Prosecutors estimated that around 90% of the company's revenues were fraudulent. But that's not all. On June 16, Minkow was also charged with credit card fraud and 2 additional counts of mail fraud. Given the seriousness of the charges, the verdict was merciless. Minkow was found guilty on all counts. On March 27, 1989, he was sentenced to 25 years imprisonment, 5 years probation and ordered to repay $26 million. Nevertheless, once behind bars, Minkow claimed to have undergone a profound transformation. He claimed to have embraced Christianity, describing himself as having experienced a new spiritual birth. This transformation manifested itself in his involvement in religious activities within the penitentiary, where he was eager to reinvent his life and acquire new wisdom. So, having served his sentence and armed with this new perspective on life, Minkow was released in 1995, ready to begin a new chapter. Becoming a pastor, he dedicated himself to the service of others. His commitment led him to join the Rocky Peak Church, where he took an active part in the religious ceremonies. In this context, he wrote Clean Sweep, a book whose profits were used to compensate his former victims. And he didn't stop there. Minkow also set himself up as a whistleblower, exposing fraud by various companies. However, it appears that his actions were far from selfless. By strategically exploiting the stock markets, he profited financially from these accusations. In the process, a number of companies found themselves particularly in Minkow's sights. Among them, Herbalife occupied a prominent place. After criticizing the company on ethical grounds, Minkow suddenly withdrew all his allegations, a surprising turnaround that came after a substantial payment from the target company. He also made a name for himself in a controversial case involving Lennar Corporation. Accusing the construction firm of massive fraud, Minkow orchestrated a public campaign to discredit the company. Given the seriousness of the accusations and the turn of events, Minkow found himself in the legal spotlight. In March 2011, in the context of a federal investigation targeting him for alleged malfeasance related to Lennar, he pleaded guilty to insider trading and resigned his position as senior pastor at Community Bible Church. Finally, in July of the same year, Minkow was sentenced to 5 years in prison and ordered to pay restitution of $583.5 million to Lennar Corporation for the damage caused by his unfounded allegations and stock market manipulations. The court also stipulated that he should serve his sentence in a federal medical facility, taking into account his multiple mental health and addiction problems. But Minkow's challenges were far from over. In 2014, another shadow cast a darker shadow over his already complex career. That year, he was convicted once again, this time of embezzling over $3 million belonging to his church. This conviction reflected a familiar and perpetual pattern in his life: deception. Ultimately, from his tumultuous days at the heart of the ZZZZ Best scandal to these later affairs, Minkow's life has been marked by a constant oscillation between duplicity and manipulation. His journey was a portrait of a man in constant search of redemption. However, he seemed unable to free himself completely from the shackles of his own deceit and dishonesty, constantly navigating between decline and attempts to repair his image. In this way, Barry Minkow's trajectory is a mixture of upturns and successive downfalls. His story, both fascinating and instructive, continues to provoke reflection and questioning about human nature and the complexity of the process of rehabilitation and personal change.